Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look in the Dungeon Master's Guide. We're going to look at two affiliated magic items, Ring of Protection and Cloak of Protection. I say affiliated because their powers are very much the same, but it matters which version you get, and they do stack with each other. We're going to go into detail on that. So first off, the Ring of Protection. I always thought this entry was kind of weird in the Dungeon Master's Guide. So we've got the fine Ring of Protection there. I'll zoom in a little tighter. There we go. Ring of Protection increases the wearer's armor class value and saving throws versus all forms of attack. A +1 ring raises armor class by 1, save from 10 to 9, and gives +1 bonus on saving throw rolls. The magical properties of a Ring of Protection are cumulative with all other magical items of protection except as follows. The ring does not add to armor value if magical armor is worn, although it does add to saving throw rolls. More than one Ring of Protection operating in the same person or in the same area, they do not combine protection, only one, the strongest applicable. This function will function, so a pair of +2 Rings of Protection are still only +2. And then we'd get a little chart down here to determine the value of the Ring of Protection. Use the table below. On a 1 through 70 on percentage dice, you get +1. 71 to 82, +2. 83, +2, plus a 5-foot radius protection. 84 to 90, +3. 91, +3 and 5-foot radius protection. 92 to 97, +4 on AC, +2 on saving throws. And 98 to 100, +6 on AC, +1 to saving throws. The radius bonus of 5 feet extends to all creatures within its circle. That would include anybody you're fighting in melee, but applies only to their saving throws, i.e. only the ring wearer gains the armor class additions. We dumped that rule pretty darn quick. We played it as written with the radius stuff when we started AD&D, and within the first 2 years or so, we said, no, this is too confusing. There were too many arguments about who was standing where, who got the protection, who didn't. It was just strange. I also found it strange that the higher rings are +4 on AC, but only +2 on saving throws, or +6 on AC, which is staggering, and +1 on saving throws. I get they were kind of shooting for a game balance, but I thought those were some unusual design choices. And now we get to Cloaks of Protection. Cloaks are actually much more straightforward. That's my cat Wally sneezing in the background. Isn't that, buddy? Take a look at the Cloak of Protection. The various forms of this marvelous device all appear to be normal garments, whether made of cloth or leather. Each lends to its wearer benefits on armor class. Each plus of the Cloak of Protection bettering armor class by 1 factor, and to saving throw. Each plus being added to the wearer's saving throw dice rolls. Thus, a +1 cloak would make armor class 10, no armor, into armor class 9, and add +1 to saving throw rolls. To determine how powerful a given cloak is, use this table. On a 1 through 35, it's +1 cloak. 36 to 65, +2 cloak. 66 to 85, +3. 86 to 95, +4. 96 to 00, +5. Note that the device can be combined with other items or worn with leather armor. It cannot function in conjunction with any sort of magical armor, normal armor other than that of leather, or in conjunction with a shield of any sort. So it will stack with a Ring of Protection, for instance, and we have ruled that it doesn't matter what the ring is versus what the cloak is. Where 2 rings, if they're a +2 and a +3, you only get the benefit of the +3 ring. If you have a +2 ring and a +2 cloak, you would gain a benefit for both. The ring, or the cloak rather, is much more straightforward than the ring as far as the write-up. There's no radius stuff, and you go all the way 1 through 5. You don't have any skips or anything like that. And we kind of adapted that back over to the ring. I'm going to take a quick look at experience points for this. I read these up before I started making the video, and they were different. I remembered them being different, which is why I looked them up first. So for the Ring of Protection, right there, 2,000 to 4,000, 10,000 to 20,000 gold piece value, but it doesn't tell us why and what we should charge. So you just have to kind of, as the DM, just kind of pick what you're going to do there. And then when you get to the Cloak of Protection, which is right here, again, it's much more straightforward. It's 1,000, and it's got the little star next to it, and that is per plus of protection. So if it's a +5 cloak, it's 5,000 experience points. And then the sale on the cloak would be 10,000 per plus of the cloak. So a +2 cloak would be 2,000 experience points, 20,000 gold piece value. And then we go to the Wilderness Survival Guide of all places. Under the ring, we see here, for Ring of Protection, the ring enables its wearer to take less damage from fall or tumble. Use the plus of the ring as subtraction from each die of damage called for, to a minimum of 1 point of damage per die. This applies both to abrasion damage and impact damage. The power of this ring is related to its ability to improve armor class, so that this power will not function if the character is wearing magical armor. That's huge. But before we discuss that, we're going to look at the cloak, and we're going to find it just says Cloak Protection, see Ring of Protection. So this works for both. So if I, for instance, have been lucky enough as the player to have gotten a +5 Ring of Protection, and I am in terminal velocity, and per this book and the rule we use, maximum dice you can take from that is 20 dice 6, and my terminal velocity, each die is -5, I only take 20 points of damage for the entire fall. That has caused some issues at our table. I kind of use this rule. Let me restate that. I do use this rule as stated, but I've made it clear to my players that if this is something that's getting abused, they're constantly just leaping off of buildings and taking, 8 points of damage because of the great protection ring that they have. I've made it clear that I will put a stop to it, and I will change the rule. One of the ways I've thought of varying this is making it only a maximum -2 per die, to make it more like a Ring of Protection or a Ring of Fire Resistance versus a Fireball, something like that. And I've made it clear to my players, if this is something they're routinely doing, then I will be looking at changing our house rule for it. That being said, my players don't abuse it. I don't even know if there are any +5 rings or cloaks in my campaign right now. So it's not really been an issue as far as the +5. On the +2, +3, yeah, there's quite a few of those floating around in various characters in my campaign. And yes, that has come up. But at -2 per die, -3 per die, I can live with that. It's when you're getting up to the +4, +5 cloak that I allow it, but I allow it with that little asterisk that I put next to it saying, if this gets abused, I will be taking another look at it. But it was interesting to get such a dramatic shift in a magic item that had been around forever. The Dungeon Master's Guide was written in '79, but here we go, 8 years later, and almost the end of AD&D first edition, and we end up in the Wilderness Survival Guide with a rule that completely changes a lot of the functionality of that particular magic item. I looked through the Dungeoneer Survival Guide, which actually came out a little bit earlier than the Wilderness Survival Guide, but I couldn't find anything on falling damage being reduced by the ring. I can only find it in this book, and I only remembered it in this book as well. But these books, by the way, I've Dungeoneer Survival Guide, Wilderness. I've taken a look at both. I like these books a ton. I don't end up using them all that much simply because we've kind of rolled a lot of these rules in. I don't have to reference the books much, but they're really good resources. If you have an opportunity to grab one of these, I absolutely recommend it. But that's all I've got today on page 121. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Please take a look at the Patreon, see if you can help me out there. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Tell your friends. Let's keep growing the channel, and I'll see you next time.